Every winter I do look forward to flying in the snow, whether it's skis or pontoons or whatever it is, taking one of my planes or several planes and hitting the field. Couple things though you got to understand when you're flying in these cold extreme conditions. I'm going to go over equipment and techniques and stuff to think about when you're getting ready to do these flights. Stick around. Go! Cold weather just zaps batteries. I mean, the flight times are not as good as they are in warm. And smaller batteries like this really drop fast. So what I try to do is keep my batteries as warm as I can while I'm at the field. So it starts off with I might throw them in my pocket of my jacket, or I've got my little mini cooler that I stack them in, throw in some extra insulation. I might have either an electronic or a chemical hand warmer, throw that in there. Sometimes I put that hand warmer on the other side of some foam so they're not right next to batteries. I kind of worry about it getting too hot. Anyway, that right there seems to help a little bit. And after my flight, when the battery's warm, I'll throw that back into the cooler to keep everything warm. There isn't a magical solution when it's sub-freezing weather to keep your hands warm. Some of my buddies will use the rubber gloves, the nitrile. I typically like my fishing fingerless gloves. They seem to keep my hands warm enough and give me a little dexterity on the sticks. There are times, though, sometimes I'll take those off and just fly without it, depending on the temperatures. The other option some of my buddies are using are these bags. I don't particularly like them. I feel like I'm afraid I'm going to hit throttle cut or do something screwy. But anyway, these are kind of interesting. A lot of people use them. You can get them on Amazon. It's amazing what we can tolerate with some warm clothes. Might not be the most stylish, but it keeps us out there a little while. All right, so maybe we're warm enough, our hands are warm enough, the batteries are warm enough, but the planes, that's a whole nother issue. Let me get into that. Our planes have a lot of plastic on them and some parts that get brittle as the temperature drops. So tires that used to be soft are now hard and bouncy. Tires that were squishy, rubbery, and filled with air are now flat. Retracts won't work. They don't work very well at all in cold weather. Even some of the servos that I have seem like they're in slow motion. So those are some of the things you think about, that things will break and things don't perform as well as they used to. Floats or skis? Which one's right for you? Let's get into the details. Which one you use really going to depend on what's available for your plane. Some planes, like this Kingfisher, you could have both. Whereas many others, like the Ranger, really you only have an option for floats. Unless you go aftermarket, which is a real option. John Anderson has an Etsy site where he makes skis for Rangers. This original Turbo Timber 1.5 doesn't have skis, but I took some from an air tractor and put them on. They fit perfect. There are plenty of other aftermarket skis out there, depending on what you're trying to do. You can get creative however you want. Implementation or installing skis is a little bit trickier because they have to be kind of spring-loaded and the tips have to stay up. Otherwise, you're going to be having some difficulties on landings. To speed up the process of installing skis when I want to hurry up and get out there, well, I have an extra set of landing gear, and I just put wheels on one and skis on the other and swap them out as soon as the weather changes. For me, if the plane has an option for floats, I'm getting the floats, unless it's something crazy. But for the most part, it just makes sense. It's much more economical. Let's get in the pros and cons of floats versus skis, because there are some things you got to think about. Skis in fluffy snow is a no-go. They just don't stay up on top, and the plane continues to just dive down. It becomes a problem, as you can see here. Now with this fluffy snow, because I'm turning the nose wheel, it's kind of diving down. Now eventually, I just kind of keep it straight and gun it, and she gets up into the air. But then we have the other problem. We got to land this thing. And sure enough, even though you try to bring it in super gingerly, she's going to flip over. Now, in this particular case, it's not going to hurt this plane. Skis are very cool. They look great. They absolutely look a lot better than flows. However, from a flyability perspective, from just, getting out and having fun and goofing off. Floats are the ideal scenario in snow. They just cover the load significantly better. So if you do have a little bit of a rough landing, you don't flip over. They just kind of float along. And here's a couple examples of some planes that I just have so much fun flying, as well as a buddy of mine with his Aero Scout. And you'll see him put this thing through the paces. And again, flying on floats, it's just too much fun.
Time remaining 4 minutes.
The sun is really kind of nice compared to what we've had. We've had 2 weeks of sub-freezing weather. Such a really fun plane and just a nice slow flyer. Trying to get a nice low flyby. Right over the top towards me.
Time remaining 3 minutes.
Welcome back into the shop. I want to cover a couple things about the planes and the flying and such. First off, if it is sub-freezing weather, I'm not taking my, very nice, expensive planes out there. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to take a STOL plane, something that if a servo fails, which sometimes they can because it's so darn cold, I'm not gonna cry over that plane a whole lot. Whereas, I'm not gonna take my Super Tucano or my laser, Extreme Flight laser out. So a couple things to think about in all seriousness, as far as the plane that you want to take out, make sure that it is somewhat, I don't want to say disposable, but kind of disposable. When you're setting up your floats, some of the floats have integrated rudder systems like FMS. And if there's a little grub screw, if you loosen the grub screw, you can pull the rudder out and flip it upside down so the rudder isn't dragging in the snow. It's going to give you a little better performance, and you're not going to rip off that rudder if you do hit a chunk of ice or something. Before you fly, after you've installed your floats or your skis or whatever, check the center of gravity. It will have changed from your ideal center of gravity. So make those adjustments with your battery placement to get the CG back to where you want it. The other thing is the planes do fly different. There's just no doubt about it. Especially like in this case, you got a lot of drag here, requires a little more up elevator maybe. Depending on your setup, it is going to require some different trimming. But that's part of the game. If you want to do this in the snow or on water, your plane is going to fly different. Hey, do me a favor. If you like this video, hit that like button. I do appreciate it, and it helps my channel grow. I have links in the description below where it says a little bit of it. If you hit more, you're going to see a whole lot more in there. and I'm going to have playlists to STOL planes. I'm going to have playlists on how to learn to fly, as well as links to all kinds of stuff I use while assembling planes, floats, skis, stuff like that. So if you have any questions, leave a comment. Appreciate it. Have a great day.